Hey, welcome back to Vice Grip Garage and Project HemiHalf, where I'm taking a Gen 3 Hemi and 46RE transmission and just stuffing it into the C10 back here. The Hemi and transmission is in, all on its own. There it is. And it also has exhaust. We're inching our way closer to getting this thing fired up. But in order to make that happen, there's got to be digicals. Great. So here we go. The great news, the Terminator X-Max is basically plug and play. You guys have seen me do this on the crew cab, other than, power and ground, switch power and ground and fuel pump, and that wiring, and then relays and fans and some other stuff. It's just click, 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 click. You're ready to go. And the Terminator here will not only run the engine, but it's also going to run the transmission. Apparently there's beep boops to run that thing too. So we got to plug that in, but this is going to manage it all, which is excellent. Basically, all I need from the truck is just a key, some accessorize up in the fuse panel. We'll work on all that stuff. But before we jump into this and get my mind all bottled up, I need to finish this transmission. Yes, it's in, it's bolted, it's test fitted, but if you remember from last episode, we ain't got a torque-lizer converter. She ain't going to move nowhere right now. I think I have the adapter Rooney needed to go from a Gen 3 to this flavor back here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This has honestly been a fun project, and some would call it new school, old school hot rodding. I mean, we're putting weird engines in the trucks and figuring things out and just doing as we go. And that's the way they used to do back in the old days. And it's been a lot of fun for me because, quite honestly, I don't know what to do with my hands. I've been confused on several occasions, but listen, if you're confused, you're learning. And any day you learn something, well, you're better off, right? Good, great, grand. Anywho's, this is the old torque-lizer converter that bolted up to the insert smart words transmission that was hooked to the Gen 3. I don't know. It looked like a Mercedes school bus with hoses hanging off of it, is what I'm saying. This was hooked to the engine that hooked to that did the thing. Well, this is not going to work in this other insert smart words transmission back here. Thor built me a torque converter and sent that over, and this is what I got out of the box. And I was like, well, wait a second. These look, one's not like the other. You know what I mean? So I forgot to order a secret weapon, which is this plate right here. I don't know. SFI spec'd adapter Rooney kit plate. Takes the Gen 3 and hooks it up to a smart words transmission back here. There's like 3 or 4 different models. So if you notice, it's not hub-centric, but it's centered. Whoop, it's dual drilled here. It's one of these. There we go. So this is going to line up like that. So basically I got to take the old flex plate off and bolt this onto the Gen 3, sink this into the transmission, and then mate these two again. So unfortunately, everything that I just got done doing last night, well, let's just take it back out again. You know what I mean? Get this stuff put in, then we can move on to, well, once we get a drive shaft, theoretically, drive line is complete, which reminds me, I gotta call the old torque twister tube guy. Wonder what he's doing. Well, the first thing a guy's gotta do is get this exhaust system out, and luckily for me, it was put in such a manner that I should have to just unbolt it from the manifolds up here and snag off some hangers back there somewhere and just snip it down in one big piece. Let it fall on my front teeth and probably break the left one out for the 5th time. Then we can get this cross member out, which I think we just got to unbolt the sides here. We can leave on the middle part, scooch it back, snip, flip, bang, bang, zing, 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 done. Also known as many, many moments later. Great. What size is that? 9/16? Probably not. go forwards, go backwards shift machine is out. This is what I was talking about. Able to keep that cross member bolted right up. Pretty neat design actually. How you just take these plates off and then it can slip right through the frame here. Here's the engine. Better look at all the room we got. Plenty for activities. Well, I got it hanging on my teeth. I'm going to take these chains off. Hopefully we'll never have to use that again. And then I need to get this shift linkage out. That was an oversight as well. Probably going to use a low car style or something like that. So get that out of the way, bust this off, get that adapter on. Hopefully everything works out there. Put some never come off juice in here and you know the deal. Well, I got the adapter-rooney plate thing figured out up here. Of course, there's a specific way you have to index this Mopar stuff, you know. It just doesn't go on. So figured that out, marked it. There's this relief thing here, made a mark on that so I know how that goes. Then a guy went ahead and set the torque converter in, dropped that into the pump. You want to go until you usually hear 2 good clicks and a thud on any automatic transmission. That seems to be seated in there pretty good. Then I dropped this starter in here and that seems to fit pretty good. This is to a Dodge Dakotas, which apparently this magical shift machine came in for a few years. I don't know, is what I'm saying, but this seems to line up and fit. Looking pretty good. This looks pretty decent there. Then I also made some marker marks on this that line up to this plate because again we have 37 different options of bolt pattern configurations. Now my next challenge is over here. There's a spacer insert dippy dopper, bobber, jigger, or inside the inside. I got to get that out because I don't know, Mark 16, Mach 12 transmissions, smaller pilot thing, and then the one behind me needs bigger spaces. So I got to get that out of there somehow, and then hopefully everything will then bolt in. Goodness gracious. Well, I don't even really want to talk about it, but I'll give you the short and the long of hers. You know, I rolled the sleeves up for a little battle. Ended up taking the shirt off. We went to war with that spacer thing. I mean, heat and pry and bang and chisel and air chisel and heat and juice and polars and grinding and cutting and, I mean, blood. There was, just listen. We got her out, is what I'm saying. I had to zip a Dremel around there, just zzz, zzz, just a touch. But now the torquealizer converter slides right into the crank. I think we can finally, 82 months later, bolt all of this stuff together, get this transmission back in for the 119th time, and just, can we bolt it down? Or can we just leave it there? I hope so. My neck is hurting, you know, from doing that, you know. Gee. Now we're cooking with the tire pile. Guys got that transmission in, bolted down finally to rest. Also put the cross member there, that's all bolted up. The guys at Monster actually helped me find an adapter plate to take that torque converter they sent to the Gen 3, and it actually worked really well, and it turns out, yeah, it's a Holley part. I just missed the old add to cart button on the interwebs there. The only little snag I've run into is the hardware that goes into the adapter-rooney plate 10,000 into the torquelator was bottoming out before I was getting them to seat, to grab, you know. So what I did was I double nutted a bolt here after I figured out what depth I need, put her in the bench vise and, you know, zip that off. So I'm going to take all these apart, put that in. Then I can move on to putting the exhaust back up. And for now, I think we're done under the truck and we could finally get to the digicals. Well, maybe I've been procrastinating, let's be honest. Well, basically I'm going to do the reverser on the pipe laters here. Start in the back, hang them on the hangers, and then bring on them. Bring it up to the front. Get it to the forward area. There we go. Boy, I got some heft. Hello! Whoa. Okay, they're gonna sound pretty good. Boy, these things ain't messing around though. I ain't kidding you. Okay. Well, where do they go now? Right there? I think so. Okay. I'm gonna let these be a little loose so a guy can waller around up front. Oh no, never see that again. Yep, I'm seeing it again. It's right here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Going up. And this right here is why it was so critical getting the engine tilted correctly. Because that worked very slick just now. Well, guys, got the manifold gaskets in, exhaust bolted up. We're pretty near done under here, but while this spare tire is just swanging, you know, right here in my teeth, let's go ahead and let's delete on that. I've had enough of that. Can't see nothing. Oh, now I can. Where's my striker upper? Oh, for Pete's sake. I've never seen this. Well, I guess I'm using this bent one from the 70s. Oh yeah. Got her dialed in from the get-go. What do we got up here? Let's go this way. White lightning still the biggest thrill of all. Ouch, that fire hurts. Goodbye. Oh, hello, little buddy. This must be a grade 48 bolt. Hanging in for dear life. Boop. Deleted. Can't forget to shut my gas off this time. Guy did just think of something up here, and or the procrastination continues. I want to go ahead and snug up these motor mount bolts. I got 3 on each side that are loose. Remember, we left them so they had some play. And then the through bolts. Got to get the washer, lock washer, nut on that. So then we could say engine, transmission, done, done. Oh no. I got to do this by hand. I got my wristitis is kicking in again. Wow, crying in the mud. Well, never seen. Huh, wrong size. Well, the engine is 100% bolted in. I'm gonna root around inside the cab here and, you know, just start trying to, I don't know. Just give me a minute, okay? I got it. I'm trying to drink this up here. I got There's wires everywhere. Digital, I got a Wi-Fi gas pedal. I mean, I don't know. Be back in a minute. Okay, what is this? Yankee Candle room spray. It still works. Not recommended. Well, I've spent quite some time in here wrestling around, got the glove box down, been rooting through the wiring in the dash, checking out it's an aftermarket AC system. Everything is here actually. Obviously the controls, condenser, blower motor, all that stuff. I really don't know if I want to tear that out. My original idea was to put it under the seat like I did on the Cat Farm crew cab. That is working spectacular. It doesn't get hot, anything like that. I can see the lights clearly just by peeking under the seat there. Plus I also have my CAN bus right there. If I just reach under, super simple. However, got to looking at this wiring harness, and I mentioned this kind of last time we were routing the O2 sensor. This one is pretty short. I mean, this is all I've got. From there to about there, this is where I've got to get everything out of the firewall. I've got my inputs and outputs here. These guys, these two. So I don't have a ton of room here. So what I'm thinking is, she can no longer go under the seat, but I test fit the gauges in here that I'm going to be using. We'll probably get to that next episode, hopefully, or the one right after that. There's tons of room. What a guy is thinking, check this out. Right there. I can still see the LEDs on the top. That leaves me plenty of room underneath for the connectors. Depth-wise, the gauge cluster sits like right here. There's going to be plenty of room depth-wise, and then the holes I want to go out in the firewall. See that light down there? Look, over to your right there. Yeah, that's where I want to go out with the wires. And can a guy snake them up into here? Then I've got my switch 12 volt, everything right here. I'll be able to tie in for my fuel sensors, all that stuff right here, turn signals, all of that. For basically what I'm saying is all of the wiring for the entire truck would be partaken pretty much right there. Now, serviceability, I don't know. Say something were to happen, which is unlikely, and you got to replace the computer box, you know, whatever that is. Not that difficult. Pop the bezel off, 4 or 5 screws, boom, there it is, bing bang boom boom, clip clip clip, done. Not that bad. And the CAN bus cord for the reader, the LCD box, will easily reach. I think I'll probably mount it under here somewhere, or over there somewhere. So I think that's going to be the plan moving forward, is we're going to tuck it away nice and neat in the dash. Won't even see it, won't see any of the wiring or anything like that. So these are the 2 holes conveniently here from the AC conversion kit that was put on that straight 6. I'm going to go ahead and use those. We actually drilled a really similar hole in the Cat Farm crew cab and fed everything through that, and then we drilled a hole through the floor for the transmission control. I'm going to run the transmission control through here. You can actually see one of the connectors right there. It goes to very short. We can tie that up. What is this now? That must be the shut the cylinders off. Definitely not hooking that up. This was the old throttle cable thing there. Anywho, I digress. I got a new tool. 36 bucks on sale. I've never owned one of these, and man has it been handy so far. I'm just wallering this out with the carbide tip. Once the connector fits through, then I can go ahead and get the connector and all the wiring hopefully through there. I gotta bring her around quite a bit more, then we'll start feeding through. She got a little tight, had to wall her out a little bit, but that worked out well. Got all of the harnesses through here. I used some gas line for small engines, you know, chainsaws, lawnmowers, stuff like that. slid it down the middle, ran it around the metal. I'm gonna come back once everything is home and plugged in and I get all the slack through. I'll get some pitch patch. It's like a sticky rubber tar, and plug all that up nice and make it nice and squishy and insulate it. But now, time to get the intake back on so we can start plugging stuff in. Well, before a guy goes on right ahead, throws this intake on here, I'm gonna block off these heater lines in the back. Well, because if the guy's running a heater somewhere in Tennessee, listen, you check your pulse. It's too hot, okay? Plus, I don't know if this heater core works or if it leaks, and I ain't opening up that can of SpaghettiOs with the sliced hot dogs quite yet. So I'm gonna cap them off, throw some hose clamps on them. Then I think I got a ground wire I gotta do back here for the Terminator X Max, as this is, right here. Gonna ground that while I can reach it easily. I think we go ahead and plop that intake on and we just start clicking the clacks together. After a guy got the intake on there, I just started plugging some things in, and one thing led to another. Everything is plugged in, and it really didn't take that long, including the transmission harness and everything. Basically, all that I have left is the O2 sensor because, well, I misplaced that. Weird. And then I've got the, what is this one called? Matt. Just one T, not like Matthew. That goes into the intake pipe somewhere. Because we're drive-by-wire, I don't believe that we need the TPS or the IAC, so I've kind of just tucked that down in here for now. May trim her up, not sure. But we're looking pretty good. I think the next thing I'm going to do is address the oil filtre, and I also need to get a pressure sensor in for our dash cluster, not the actual Terminator X Max. That's already plugged in down here. I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about, but I want to get this addressed right away because I'm contemplating going ahead and putting the front clip on so I can get a battery in here, start wiring into that, and also a fuel pressure regulator on the opposing side over there. And I'm kind of in this murky gray water situation, but I want to get this dealt with because it's down here kind of tough to get to once, you know, there's a front or ender in here. So you remember previously we were talking about the oil cooler, which stands off of here down to about there. Then there would have been a filter on top of that. And even if we, you know, shimmed up the motor mounts or got creative with some other stuff, there's just no way to service it. There wouldn't be any way to spin the filter off. Contemplating a 45-degree kit, I think that would have hit as well. But I picked up something from a Dodge Dakota RT that may work. We'll get to that in a minute. Right now I'm dealing with the sensor. We've got oil pressure here plugged in to the Terminator X Max already. This one, if this is pressure, this has got to be temperature. We don't need that, so it's just going to sit. I guess if you wanted to use it, you could. There's plenty of inputs on the Terminator X Max, but I'm not really worried about it. I pulled this plug out, and what I need to do is get kind of an old school pressure sensor like this one in the system for the new gauges that are going to be going in the truck. Now, I've tried this several different ways, contemplating taking this out, plugging this, using this one, whatever. This is pretty much the best arrangement I can come up with, is something kind of like that. It keeps this little doohickey dangle bobber away from the old make her steady and go straight frame. So, you know, I didn't want it down here, kind of gets in the way. It's probably going to be the best right here. So I'm going to find some fittings that'll get me into that, goop it up, torquilizer down, and then eventually we're going to run one more single wire down to that. Probably try to get it into this loom, back into the cab for the dash there. On all the threads here, I'm using this product called Gas Oila or something like that. It's a soft set thread sealant, but it works on gasoline and oils, which is really handy. Still see on the interweb sometimes Feller's trying to use Teflon tape on gasoline fittings. Ain't gonna work. This stuff does, and it works great on oil too. Got this all gooped up. Now I'm kicking it back a little bit here because, well, quite frankly, I have no idea what's going to be partaking over here yet till I get my hands on that. So I'm just trying to plan ahead a little bit. I know, weird. And try to keep this out of the way if a guy can go ahead and do that. There, she's tonked now. Okay, on to the oil filter. This may be the whole resolution right here. I do have a handy dandy block off relocation kit with hoses and doodabs and bip bops and plates and hangulators and clamps. But I did a lot of crawling around on the interwebs and found this little thing here, and supposedly this will thread in. We can use the original block surface as the mating surface for the filter. Filter screws right into this, and we may just have room to service it. Let's find out. Well, it's screwing in. Well, let me try to find the alien wrench that goes inside of this to tighten it down. It's a big one. Ended up being metric 12. That's weird. Nope. All right, snug this down. I think the book says 317 foot-pounds, give or take 300. Boy, she really goes up in there. There we go. Of course, I got to throw a Wix filter in her. Wrote the date on the bottom, or put the miles on there, fellers, so you know what's going on. I had a scooch of some old break-in oil laying around. That's what I filled it with. Not that that's what I'm going to run on the rig, but I don't want anything to go to waste around here, so put that on there. Will all be dipped. There we go. I think our oil filtre problem is solved. Easily serviceable, or at least a guy could get his mitts on it from underneath here in the future. Yeah, yep. Gonna over torque that for the next guy. Perfect. Next thing I'm gonna do, I gotta run this main harness this is for the X-Max box. I think I might sneak this out over here if I can, because I'd like to run this over to fender well, because see, this is going straight to the battery, which is gonna be basically right where the old noggin is, if you can picture that. Bzz, 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 12 volts, you know, rather than bring it over the engine and do all that stuff. Huh. Making pretty good progress today. Shouldn't have said that. I still don't know what this thing does. Well, tricks are for kids, but I'm going to teach you one anyway. See, I got this here wire poking out the way a guy did, but here's the thing. It's up behind and in behind the box, the plastic, the heater stuff, and the ACs. And what I'm saying is, if you look in here in any way possible, you can't see this hole. But I know it's there because I'm looking right at it, right? Well, I'm a lone wolf. I work alone 99.2% of the time. So a guy learns some tricks, you know, throughout the years. Here's one of them. Get a fan, crank that sucker up, blow some wind through that hole. And then what you do is you take your good hand, if you're like me, the other one you can't feel it, and you can feel that wind, right? And then just start poking the wire where the wind's coming from, and lo and behold it, right through it goes. I'll be dipped. So what a guy's doing right now, I got all the different harnesses laid out. That's the main harness, coil drivers, it's transmission, that's the throttle pedal, got main power. And I'm just gonna go through all these extra wires here and take anything that needs to go through the firewall. I know I got, this is 12 volt constant to the battery, this is 12 volt switch, that'll go down here. That's fuel pump, we can go through the firewall over here for that. So I'm just trying to get everything through the firewall that I need to get through there now, because, well, I can lean over the engine right now and easily feed stuff through here. I'm going to pull oil pressure out and one more for water temp, which I'm going to have to figure out at some point. We'll have the water temp on the Terminator, but not on the gauge right now. I don't have another coolant temp sensor port, unless maybe I put a T in here or something, or maybe this little guy. I don't know if that goes in there. We can maybe get, so I don't know. See, that's what I'm up against. So I'll pull an extra, we'll cut this open, and I'll try to lay it in here nice. Fuel pump can come through here as well. This is that battery over on this side. Once I get everything stubbed through, maybe even a couple extras, then I feel comfortable putting on the front clip, and it's just going to save so much time in the end, basically. Eventually got to come back through, put the original harness in. That mounts up here on a relay, goes across, and that gets power to the original fuse panel for the accessorize and all that stuff, and then key switch ignition and yibbity yabba. But we're making progress. I know it looks like a ton of wires, but it's really not, guys. Don't panic. I might be panicking, but you don't, okay? You got tach, key switch, fuel pump, battery. I'm not sure, but this is probably like 4-wheel drive and a bunch of other weird stuff that we probably don't even need. But I haven't dug into the constructions on that one yet. I'm still on this guy. Reading through some more of this, there's some outputs that are pre-configured in here, and inputs. 2 of them are fan. So I got fan 1 and fan 2. So I can run these to my fan kit relays, and the ECU will tell the fans when to turn on based on temperature. So I can have one at 180 and one at 190 or whatever you want. This is all the extra, don't need it. So I just gotta plug this in, extend these out, and get those through the firewall as well. And then I'm still trying to find what I need to do here as far as this harness goes, but we're getting there. Okay, got all this ran through the same loom here. As soon as I figure out where I'm going to drop these, I'll get this taped up nice and put these in some sort of wire loom too. But this is for the fan relays, be over here on the fender. Then I got another 12 volt for the ECU, and the yellow one is an extra. I'm assuming the transmission controller is going to need 12 volt constant. So I'll bring that over here, and if not, then we've got something for future use. Cut the speedometer cable and hooked it down below when it was up in my teeth. I'm going to pull this back through, and then I'll have a nice rubber grommet right here that I can use to pull any additional wires I want through here, like the fuel pump, gas gauge, stuff like that, if I don't want to jump into the old wire, which I'm thinking I may not, because I'll have 2 splices in it. The other one I have enough to go all the way up into the cluster. So I'd rather have, a nice clean new run if I can. Well, the guy's been smashing away on this for a couple hours, and well, I got updates. Ooh, the Octagona Celicus is a little tight back there. Anyway, wiring, that's where we're at. I did find a pipe plug that I was able to back out and get a temperature sensor in there. So now we have one both for our dash cluster and one for the Terminator X Maxuses. So that's great. Also got the oil pressure sensor buttoned up, and all of that is tucked away nicely in that Terminator X loom. So she looks pretty factory, I gotta admit. Lifted her up in the air, and Chad and Donnie swung by, hung around, had a couple wobble pops. They worked on the e-brake system for me, and we were able to figure that out and get all of that put back in. I need this truck to be, well, pass certificates, surveys, pass the inspections in all 50 states, hopefully. So that's in, working. We got the e-brake assist again. Also went ahead and got in the fuel pump wiring. All that is snugged up in there and ran up front so I can get that wiring as well. We're nearing the end as far as what we need to run. Now it's all just beep booping and burning and cutting and doing all that stuff. Great. Another thing that the guy's working on right now is the original harnesses for the truck, because I got to integrate these things at some point or another for the key to do the things to the starter at the same time the computer does the beep boops to the injectors and the fuel and the thing runs. Anyway, I got the original power harness basically thinned out here, and I clipped out all of the sensors that we don't need, which is pretty much everything on the engine, because the Terminator X and the new gauges are going to do that. And I didn't want just a bunch of wires just hanging around here. That's weird. I know, I'm just trying to make it look a little bit better. And then the second harness is on the front clip still. If you remember, I just left it intact, and that runs all the lips on the front there. So when we put that back on, we could just boop that in. We shouldn't have to touch that one. But I've still got to figure out, how does this charging wheel work? I don't know. Tell me. How do I live without you? No, that's a song. How does it work is what I'm saying. Because I got a 2-wire thing and then the charging wire, but I've got it thinned out to where it's pretty close, but I'm going to leave it off the truck for now. If you haven't figured it out, I'm just trying to get everything I can get done now before I put that front clip on again, because, well, the belly, and then leaning over all day on the back, and then stuff. I'm going to start working on this fuel pump wiring, get all this buttoned up, get my ground brought back around, so when we put the front clip on, we get that to the battery. We are making some progress today, though. I ain't kidding you. Oh, I can't forget to put oil. I need to put a note on there, actually. Well, that's it. I actually finished up the gauge wiring pretty quick, and it wasn't that bad. I just did a little bit of prep work. Remember that calcium C test in high school, or calculatus, whatever it was. You just got to prepare yourself. So what I did was I went ahead and just wrote down all of the wiring, or the colors and what they are, from the original dash cluster. There's a big ribbon plug-in that goes in the back of square bodies. So I wrote that on the door panel here, and then I also put my cheat sheet over here on the side. And then I just taped up the Classic Instruments wiring schematic right next to it. So all I had to do once I snipped out the wires of the ribbon is just say, okay, gray is to gray, light blue is to blue and white, for example. And just went down the list and just connected them right there on the dash. Another thing I did that saved me a lot of time this time is back here on the back of the truck, I went ahead and pulled out all of the ones that I knew that I needed, and then went through the wiring diagram and figured out if I was going to be tying that to a smaller gauge wire or a bigger gauge wire that I ran, which is typically like a 16 gauge, and then went ahead and put the connector on one side of the wire of the connector that goes to the new dash. Are you following along? Because I'm getting lost, if I'm being honest. But anywho's, so when I put it in the truck, all I had to do was stick one end of the wire in and heat it up. So I wasn't fighting the fitting and trying to get the two to stay together and leaning over the column. It went really quick. Highly recommended. It needs to be cleaned up still. Looks a little bit like a rat's nest, but essentially that is ready to put the gauges into the dash, with the exception of the VSS. I got to figure out how to program that and connect it. And I'm going to leave it out right now as well, so I could see the lights on the Terminator X up here when we do our initial fire up. I'll have all of the vital gauges. It's going to tell me what I need to know on the beep boop screen. So I don't need these yet, is what I'm saying. But we're making huge progress with wiring. I'm feeling pretty confident we're getting really, really close to putting this front clip on, but it is, I don't know, 1:42 in the morning or something. It's really late. So I'm going to go get some shut-eye, let my boots simmer for a minute, get a little bit of rest. Bright and early tomorrow morning, we'll be back on the Hemi Chevy here. Well, the guy went on ahead and making some pretty good progress here on the old digital wires. The inside, it looks a little messy, but it's starting to come around. Everything's loomed up. I just need to get everything tucked away, strapped up, and put to bed. Even got the new dash that's going to be going in, all wired and everything. I'm basically down to figuring out the throttle pedal, and I got to find a wiring diagram on the transmission harness, because that's a bowl of spaghetti, and I don't want to guess. I'm not very good at the gambling, just all in every time. I need to basically get power into the ECU and all the other beep boop boxes at this point, so I can start testing everything. In order to do that, it would be wise to go ahead and just put the front clip on, so I get the battery tray in, the battery in, get all that grounded, start working on my ground, speaking of those, and then we can start powering stuff up. But real quick before I do that, I want to address the power steering down here, because right now it's in my teeth. Let's just get that done. So again, I'm trying to save a bunch of money here by we're going to leave the suspension alone. You know, I may put shocks in it, stuff like that. But as far as like the control arms, we're not going tubular. We're not doing drop springs and fancy like coil-over shocks or any of that stuff. Even the gearbox and all this is going to stay. But I need to address the lines here because obviously this went to a GM style pump-lator over here. And then this hose is the reservoir return, low pressure side, and that went to a reservoir that was hooked onto the actual pump itself down in this region. Well, this Allion pump, you got this big tubulator coming out of here. It goes over to a plastic tank hooked into a windshield wiper thing, and then there's stuff that comes out of that, I guess, down to here, and then I got to make a new line to go from this guy up into here. So as you can see, it'd be easier to address at least the high pressure side, get that out of the way. Low pressure I'm not too worried about, but again, once we get that front clip on, that fender well is going to be right here, and then we can try to figure out how to rig up that Allion reservoir and get this stuff going. Also fuel, we can start working on fuel pressure regulator, and then over on this side start tying in back trace. Why do they call it buffalo chip dip? There ain't no buffalo in that. You've been fooled. These here are bajillion pressure power steering fittings by Earls. And then I'm gonna use this DOT line here. It's, I don't know, a million kilowatt pounds pressure stuff. And I'm just gonna make a hose from here to here. I wished I would have got another slight bendy 45 or whatever this is. Would have been a little bit better, or maybe even a straight, but it is what I got, and I got's what it is. This is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave a little bit of slack for the old motor tiltage, being we got some polyurethanes, but it should work just fine. Get this knocked out quick. You know, until a guy messed with that crew cab, I had never even really played with these AN fittings. Just never had a use for them, but they are handy, but they're not cheap. So I'm going to give you some tips here just to try to protect your investment. Number one, you can't attack these with a vice grip. Found out the hard way. You need specific AN tools. This is very, you know, the fittings are very susceptible to damages, okay? Also, this little thing is super handy. So you're not taking 2 wrenches and trying to go opposites making these fittings. Get one of these bench mounted deals and you can just crank her in, and that way all you have to do is just screw the one side in and you're done. Get yourself some sort of oils, lubricate on it. I mean, WD-40, whatever, would work too. Most importantly, when you get done building your line, make sure you flush these things. You know, whatever kind of cleaner you want to use, but you don't, especially if you cut them like I do with a death wheel. You don't want all that rubber and stuff floating around in here, contaminating your system. Anywho's, I'm going to finish building this quick. We'll get her on the truck. Now, on standard fittings, you got to be really careful that when you're driving this in, you're not pushing the line out of the fitting here. But this one being, it's an 1199 million PSI pressure, this piece is actually threaded. See in there? So she's really biting down. I don't think I got to worry about that as much, but just another precaution. You think it's going in a little bit easier, check on it a little bit, would you? Guys, got the power steering line snipped in. Looks great. I think it's going to work excellent as well. I'm going to worry about the low pressure and return and all that after I get the front clip on. And speaking of that, I'm going to clean up a little bit, get some tools found, kind of reset, if you will. Get these front tires off, get it up on the air jack, and I'm going to have to get creative with the old John Deere to get the front clip back on. My son Bradley helped me take it off before, but he's in school and Jessica's a $110 soaking wet, so she's not going to be able to lift it. I'm going to try to just strap it up and fork it on here. I will destroy some things, but it'll be on nonetheless. Bring her down, make it easier now. Slip on. that'll slip. Well, the guy is going to go on ahead and replace the front body mount bushings things, connector uppers right here, because, well, these ones were non-existent. If you remember, it was just a rusted ring right here. The cushion part was actually just gone. And also the hardware, which should look like this, looks like it came out of a gold mine in Deadwood, South Dakota. Not quite okay-ish. Maybe you could get a couple miles out of that. I don't know. Okay, so I think we're pretty much set here. Just got to find all my spacer doodabby uppers and the hardware that I've already lost, and then we'll bring this back down, try to rig up the front clip and ease it on. Well, here's the guy's setup. I got a ratchet strap on each corner, and I'm just going to try to lift it up at the forks. You can see I got them set out wide, and just try to boop, set her in. Little red Corvette, boop, 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 boop. Something, something again. I can't see nothing. Well, even a spotter right now would be slick. Sounded like I was hitting something. Keep going. Alright, I'm going to pause there. See what I got cooking. Oh, hey. I think if we just keep easing. It's got to come up, get over the A-arms. Okay. Never walk under a loader. Check. All right. Also don't operate a loader's hydraulics, not in the vehicle. 10-4. That out of the way. Now we ease it forward. Oh, there's my plier. Ease it forward. I think. Maybe just a hair more up tilt. Up and tilt. I don't like that noise. That noise doesn't sound good. Oh, I lost strappage on this side. Oh yeah. Okay, if I slide this forward just a tickle, my plan is I could slide it on these forks, see? I could just take the old slide it. Oh man. I am home, I think. Boom. Never walk under a loader. Over here. Oh, that's the problem. There we go. Hood hinge. Boom. Rest is easy. She's on. So when a guy started this project, I said, hey, I wonder if a guy could save a whole bunch of time by just snagging off the whole front clip in one piece. And well, you witnessed just now what I was talking about. By the way, this looks for some reason worse than it did a minute ago. This is the list. I mean, there's a lot. And this is just stuff in addition to what I've already done. So, yeah, that's why I don't do this, I guess. Anywho's, I gotta clean this stuff up. I got spilled some chocolate milk out of the bucket of the green tractor. All this stuff came out of the Beep Boop California box thing. I don't know, it's got a hole in it, I guess. Oh, sure enough, that's what's in those, I guess. I'm gonna go ahead and delete on that. Get that cleaned up, but you can see how much room there is in here, actually. It's really not that bad. Get a rad in here, an aluminum one. We can mount our fuel over here, and also our reservoir for the PS pump-a-lator somewhere. Get that battery in this tray. Now we got a bunch of stuff to do. Let me clean, we'll get this thing bolted back on. guy can wrestle the bumper on here. Wow, I even put the hardware in the bracketry. That's really unusual. Must have been early in the day. You know, sans wobble pops is what I'm saying. If I remember correctly, we had to dip this in and out. It was like dip, and then swing or something. Why were we swinging? What needed swung? Okay, dip, swing, swing it. Oh, yeah. That was exactly what we needed to do. I got new bolts for this, I think. The guy is going to go on ahead and snag in some new hardware on this bumper. Of course, leave the bumper itself. But the other hardware is tougher than an Applebee's steak, so let's get that on out of there. There we go. Well, which way how do I, there. Get this other hardware fired in here quick. Oop. Yeah. Ouch. I needed something for my ears, not swimming goggles. For Pete's sake. Okay. Yeah, let's just keep doing it then. Okay. Well, I guys got this bumper right in my earlobe. I'm going to go ahead and clean it now, even though it makes absolutely no sense in the processes of the progress of the situations at hand. But nonetheless, you know, it's got to get done. And again, I'm lazy and it's just easy right now. Moses sandals, I got a hole right in my headlight. Oh, I guess I got to order them now. Great. Hey, the front clip's back on the HemiHalf here. It's starting to look like a pick-em-up truck again. Got that front bumper just like that Rye Hannah lady says, shining bright like some diamonds. I mean, not really, but it is remarkably better. I got you way back in the corner there so you could take a look at the stance of the rig here. It's sitting almost perfectly level right now, and we still have to put an aluminum radiator in the hood and some other garbly gook on the front end here. There were a lot of comments through this series already. Hey, that Hemi weighs so much more than that 6-cylinder. You're going to ruin the front suspension. You need to put upgraded springs and shocks and brakes and all of this. That is correct thinking if that was the case, and this might surprise you, but I actually did a ton of research before I started this project, and you're going to be surprised to know that Hemi, the Eagle Hemi, weighs less than the Chevrolet i6. Yes, it does actually. The i6 weighs about 630 pounds. That weighs 591 pounds all dressed up, so it's about a 40-pound difference. Now you might say, well, wait, Derek, what about the shift machine? Okay, well, Turbsky 350 is probably about 120. The A518 is about 170, so there's 50 pounds. So all told, we're only in this about 10 pounds-ish heavier than where we started now. I don't know about you fellers, but I could pick up 10 pounds in a steakhouse and a tavern real quick and easy. I'm not sweating that at all right now. My goal is just to get this thing on the road, drive it around, see how it handles and brakes, and yeah, maybe we'll continue the build, or maybe we just say, you know what, good enough, let's enjoy it. But that's going to do it for this episode. We've made some huge progress. Coming up next, we could throw a battery in this thing and start zzz, 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 zzz. Let's make this thing come to life. Thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate it very much. See you next time.